Well, I've gotten nothing but had nothing but great conversations with Jaylen, but we can't talk about all that stuff, as I said earlier with Grant. Like, I'm not allowed to talk about, the contract details, let alone the extension, because it's not of that time yet. Right now, his window is between July 1st and October or whatever it is. And but I can say, without a doubt, like, we want Jaylen to be here, and he's a big part of us, and we believe in him, and I'm thankful for him, and and I said this earlier. I'm really thankful for when those guys have success, they come back to work, and when they get beat, they own it and they come back to work. And so I know that that's what they're about, and that's hard to find. Kind of like what I talked about with leadership earlier. Those qualities aren't for everybody. So. Jaylen had a great year, all NBA year. He's a big part of us moving forward in our eyes.
All right. I didn't even see that quote. So that is his thoughts on the Jaylen Brown extension. I also want to bring up his thoughts on Big Joe. Here we go. Joe Mazzulla. Yeah, I call him Joe Mazzulla.
Head coach for this team going forward, and if so, why?
Yeah, I think he is. And I thought he, again, did a really good job with this group. Everybody's going to overreact to the best players and coaches after every game. That's always the way it is. We know that going in, so we have to, be able to judge things on the whole. And he's a terrific leader. He'll only get better at anything that, he can learn from this year, because he's constantly trying to learn. And he's accountable. Those leadership qualities are hard to find. I know they're easy to talk about, but when you can show all those through the expectations and the microscope that he was under, that's hard to do. And so, yeah, was he perfect? Would he like to have some moments back? Every coach would. Even the coaches nobody talks about would, right? And we all that have coached know how hard that is. And at the same time, our players, our staff, everybody around him, believe in him, and we got to do our best to, support him going forward. And I think it's really important that, we share results here. This is not, outside of our walls, we can do the dissecting of whose fault things are. Inside of our walls, we have 60 people in basketball operations, and we all got to do the best we can, to get the results we want. And we all share it when it goes our way, and we share it when it doesn't go our way.
All right. So with those two quotes being said, essentially what it sounds like to me is that ideally Boston does want Jaylen Brown back. It looks like they're pretty set on Joe Mazzulla being the head coach of this season, being the head coach of this team moving forward. I also heard some news that a lot of our assistant coaches are actually following Ime Udoka in Houston. And on top of that, the plan with Joe Mazzulla moving forward is, instead of firing him, to hire more veteran assistant coaches. Apparently, is it Paul Silas? Whoever the Rockets coach is in contention for that. Frank Vogel is actually in contention for that as well, being one of our assistant coaches. Y'all already know what I think. I am not a big fan of just running it back. I'm not. I understand continuity, again, is really big in the NBA. I think it's highly underrated. Highly underrated. But at some point, again, I feel like there's just a championship window right now. I feel like while there's a championship window right now, the mentality of this team is to just keep on running it back, keep on improving in the offseason until we get over that hump. I think that's the mentality of this team. When, in my opinion, the problem with this franchise, even before Brad Stevens became our GM, was complacency and taking shit for granted. It's complacency and taking shit for granted. It's always looking 4 to 5 years ahead when there is games to win right now. Right? There's games to win right fucking now. We had a chance to win a championship last season. Keep it a bean. We had a championship, a chance to win a championship this season. And while I do trust this team to make some certain retooling adjustments, I don't expect this team to be the same next year. I don't. I think for a lot of cores, though, there are just like inherent problems with building around certain players. With this team, building around Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I understand Jaylen Brown has shown that he can improve in the past, but let's not also be too optimistic on his growth when we are going to be investing $200 million, $230 million to the dude. There's a lot of players in NBA history who just peaked at 26, 27. Never improved their game. Never improved on their weaknesses. There's a lot of all-time greats who are, in their regard, all-time greats, but had the same weaknesses 4 years into the league and had those same weaknesses in year 12 and year 13. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, at this point, waiting for Giannis to get a shot. I understand he can make strides. Off seasons exist. People train in the off season. But some players, we gotta be realistic with who this dude is gonna be for the next couple of years. Right? For the next couple of years, like, this dude just cannot shoot. So let's build this team with the fact that he cannot shoot. And I think with Jaylen Brown, is he going to be an elite ball handler going into next season? And mind you, I don't need him to be elite. But are these turnover issues, are these ball handling issues, are these playmaking issues going to change drastically enough in the next 2 years? Are you willing to take that risk in the next 2 years to see if it does develop? With the cap space that you're going to give to him, with how much that's going to damage the construction of the rest of the team, are you going to be willing to bet on that? I don't know. I personally wouldn't. I think Brad Stevens, he fucked up extending Coach Mazzulla. I think this whole move of sticking with Coach Mazzulla is not just a what's better for the team, but it's also his attempt to prove that, I didn't make the wrong decision. I think this is his second year being a GM. Like, I didn't make the wrong decision, guys. I'm going to prove it to y'all by giving him more time. He just needs the right resources and the right team around him. I think that's what's going on. I think Jaylen Brown and extending him and winning with a core of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown is, again, there's pride involved. There's pride involved in these decisions as well.